This is at 7 or 6:40, right? 6:40, right? And our Isha is what time? 8. خير إن شاء الله. Okay. طيب. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. Inshallah, a new chapter in Riyadh al Saliheen. And after finishing the last chapter, which was a short chapter if you remember, which is Al-Hathu ala al-Izdiyati min al-Khayri fi awakhir al-Umr, as you progress in age, that you should increase, intensify your good deeds. And now rahimahullah moves to the chapter with the title Babun Bayanu Kathrati Turuqil Khayr. Kathratu Turuqil Khayr. So this is the explanation of the abundance of the paths of virtue. So khayr has paths to it, doors. And the Nawawi rahimahullah wants to say what? Are they limited or abundant? There's a lot of them. Kathratu turuqil khayr. So there are many ways that take you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Of course, these ways have to be legislated by Allah. That's the thing. A difference between us assuming that this thing will be loved by Allah, then doing it based on that assumption, which could be right or could be wrong. Or actually knowing that Allah loves this thing. Because what Allah loves and what Allah hates is ghaib or not. Like if we don't have the sharia, don't have revelation, ghaib or not? Ghaib, you don't know. If you were to think about it, you're on your own. Allah wants you to pray at what time? I have no idea. How to pray? I have no idea. Should I be generous with my money or not? Yeah, you think, this is, something virtuous, but how much? Does He require it or is it voluntary? Does He want me to go on pilgrimage to any place? Should I fast? You think about all of this, you don't really know. Unless Allah what? Informs and allows. So there's this difference between, we're talking about it being abundant, yes, abundant, but allowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, telling you, this path really takes you to me, to Allah. Versus being something that we come up with thinking, oh yeah, Allah must love this, God must love this, of course. So, and of course there's a difference between saying that there are different paths to Allah Azza wa Jal, which is what we'll be talking about here, and all of them are legislated, allowed, and also saying that any path of any faith, of any religion, as long as they are seeking Allah, that will take them to Allah necessarily. There's a difference between the two. Because if that religion is legislated and allowed by Allah, He loves it, it'll take them to Allah Azza wa Jal. If not, it won't. Even if the person thinks that they're on the right path. You see the difference between the two? So we're not saying all religions, like not all roads will take you to Rome. Not all religions will take you to Allah Azza wa Jal. Some of them will, some of them won't. And the only religion that will take you to Allah on the face of this earth today is what? Islam. Right? And if there's questions about that, inshallah, ask me. Sometimes the questions are not about things that you don't know, but things that you want to be explained for the sake of others, inshallah. So let me know, inshallah. So, anam. The second point, inshallah, that I wanted to explain is what's the importance of kathratu turuqil khayr? And why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us so many roads, again legislated and approved, that takes us to Him? Why? Well, for many reasons. One is basic human boredom. And if you ask someone, pray, you pray and you pray and you pray, and after some time, what do you get? Tired a little bit. So are you supposed to stop worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then, or can you move from this worship to another type of worship that is going to capture your attention, your energy, and you'll be motivated to do it? So you can move from this to the other. We'll see examples, inshallah. So you can be moving from one worship to the other, and then to another, and then to the other, so that at least in theory, You could be worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala throughout the whole day and night. Not doing just one thing, but multiple things and different things. You know, let's give examples. There's salah, but there's also what? You could be fasting. You could be giving sadaqah. You could be taking care of your family. You could be doing your work for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You could be eating for the sake of... All of these things are ibadat. So one thing is human boredom and fatigue. The second thing is human ability. And the specific ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given to you. And your mood and inclination. You see, when you survey humans, you'll find that this person, alhamdulillah, is really good in salah. As I say, Allah Azza wa Jal given them success in salah. I mean, not only the obligations, but the voluntary. They keep the sunnahs at night. They love salah. So Allah had given them success in salah. Another person, right? Allah Azza wa Jal had given them success with the basics, with keeping the basics of the rest of Islam. But success and tawfiq and love for sadaqah. Very generous with their money. You ask them for anything, if there's somebody who's in need, they will give a lot. So maybe their prayer is not as good as the other one, but their sadaqah exceeds the other person, the first person. Another person likes fasting. Another person likes helping others. So Allah Azza wa Jal knows that we have different abilities, right? And that some of these acts fit our abilities more than others. So Allah wants to give you more than one chance to reach Him by saying, here are, subhanallah, in many ways that you can earn hasanat and forgive your sayyi'at and enhance your iman. You can choose 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever fits and works for you. And sometimes also circumstances dictate that. Not only my mood and your mood, my ability and your ability, but circumstances. Sometimes you want to donate but you don't have money. We'll read something like that. You want to donate but you don't have money. What do? There's other things that you can do. Right? Sometimes you want to fast. But subhanallah, you're sick or you got older. You can't fast. Does it mean that there's nothing else that you can do? No, then you can take all that energy that you feel, I need to be doing this, invested in another path of virtue that will take you to Allah Azza wa Jal. So again, circumstances. When certain act, is not available either to all Muslims or to me in particular, there's another way that I can compensate for that. And inshallah, if I think of other benefits, inshallah, I'll share those with you. So some ayat that An-Nawawi rahimahullah mentions, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ. Whatever good you do, meaning it's big or small, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. So khayr here is nakira. Right? And nakira meaning here that it's just what? Encompasses everything that you do. And that Allah knows it. And if Allah knows about it, what does He do with it? Rewards you for it. Right? So it does tell you it's not just 1 or 2 or 3 paths, but there are many and multiple acts and deeds that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves. The second ayah is the same. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمْهُ اللَّهُ. Whatever good you do, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمْهُ اللَّهُ. There's a benefit, an added benefit here. What is this added benefit? What if I do, and that tells you the difference between the one who works and he wants or she wants people to notice it, and someone who does it for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. He wants Allah to notice it. Now, if I'm doing it for the sake of people, and I'm not noticing that that's my intention, and I'm doing it, and no one thanks me, and no one praises me, what's the likely outcome? You'll stop. Because people don't know it. You can't be this unknown soldier because it's difficult. If you want people to recognize you and praise you, you're working for that. So if it goes unknown and unnoticed, you'll stop doing it. Or either, somehow you'll try to tell people about it or inform them. But if no one knows about it and that's what you want from it, you'll stop doing it. This is no one knows about this. I'll find something else to do. But if that act is an act of virtue, and you're doing it for Allah Azza wa Jal, and then that whisper or that thought comes to your mind, well, no one knows about it. What you can say to yourself is, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ بِهِ عَلِيمٌ. Or the ayah, وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمُهُ اللَّهُ. Allah knows it. Even if no one else knows it, even if no one else thanks me for it, ever recognizes it, it goes and it dies with me. But still Allah Azza wa Jal knows it. And in fact, maybe I think we've mentioned this before or not, that there is this benefit to keeping some of your deeds hidden. No one knowing about them. Ever. There are some things that you cannot hide. Your salah, you cannot hide this. Sometimes your sadaqah, you cannot hide this. Helping others, you cannot hide this. Right? Sometimes. But then, okay, there are other opportunities where you will be able to do or please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if you can hide it, hide it. Why is that? One, it's safest for that act. It's unpolluted by anything. Because you're not doing it for the sake of anyone. And the second thing is that it does teach you ikhlas. You test yourself and you push yourself. Am I doing this for Allah Azza wa Jal or for someone else? If it's for someone else, it will stop. But if it is for Allah and His pleasure, it will continue. So you're teaching and you're building ikhlas to yourself. So trying to, inshallah, cultivate that, and you can pick whatever you want, bi'idhnillah, but trying to cultivate that where this action is only between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that when you meet Allah, at least you have that thing unpolluted. And Allah then says also, subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and it is in Surah Al-Zalzala, فَمَنْ يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَى. The one who does the weight of a dharrah, the smallest item, right? An ant's weight, a speck, then he will see good from Allah Azza wa Jal. They say that the pre-Islamic Arabs thought that if you do something good but it is small, or evil but it is small, it does not matter. It goes unnoticed. Whether it's small, good or bad, it goes unnoticed. So Allah Azza wa Jal wants to tell them, to teach them, and also teach us, because sometimes we also have this attitude. What is this going to do? What is this dollar going to do? Right? What is this Assalamu alaikum going to do? Not much. What is this smile going to do? Not much. So we look at it as very insignificant. And also the bad deeds that sometimes we will do, well, this is so little, Allah will forgive this. Allah will forgive this. Allah will forgive this. So Allah here says what? Makes it sort of categorical, is that if you do something good, khair will be seen. And if you do something bad, bad will be seen. Mithqala dharra, even the smallest, that we're responsible for it. Allah can choose to forgive it. Allah can choose to forgive it. But Allah is saying, as a rule, is there a consequence to it or not? There is a consequence to it. And that consequence to it could be in the hereafter, or it could be this mithqal dharra, its consequence is in this dunya. Some of these consequences is that this mithqal dharra, this small bad thing that we've done, leads to a little bigger bad thing. And then bigger and bigger and bigger. And eventually you'll be doing something great that upsets Allah Azza wa Jal. And it started as something small. And the same thing for whatever is good. The smallest of things, Allah could be happy with it. And one of the consequences of it is that one door of good leads to another. And that small thing becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until you actually may earn some of the highest levels in Jannah because of this small thing that you started. And others have said, or you are saying to yourself, how is this significant? Right? We'll see. We'll look at some of the ayat, inshallah. Let's go with the first hadith. So he says, Abu Dharr radiyallahu anhu, he says, قُلْتُ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ أَيُّ الْأَعْمَالِ أَفْضَلِ. He asked the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, أَيُّ الْأَعْمَالِ أَفْضَلِ. What or which of deeds is best? What are the best of deeds? Now, is Abu Dharr's question just for knowing, or there's something beyond knowing as well? Knowing and also applying. Because you can ask a question for two reasons. I'm just curious. Right? And you come to someone, tell me what are the best deeds in Islam? This. Oh, okay. Good to know. It's just good to know. And some of us are intellectual that. I don't know if it's intellectual, but anyway, are cerebral like that. Meaning that we like to talk. Oh, what is this and what is that? This sunnah, this is fard. This is important, this is not important. Should we do this, should we not? What's about the difference of this madhab and that madhab and whatever it is. There is that discussion, but it's only here. Only here. So when we're talking about it, the intention is not to apply what we know. Not to take it any further than, I just want to have a very nice discussion. An interesting discussion. Some of the times it's okay. That's fine. As long as this is an interesting thing and you're learning something, maybe you'll apply it later. But the intention of the Sahaba, and by the way, this is how the Prophet ﷺ taught them. That is, you ask for the sake of what? Doing something with what you know. Not storing it in your mind as a computer. It's just there in a file. Because what happens, right, the computer, is more reliable than we are. You store it, and unless it's infected, you can always find it, right? Right? Yeah, if it's not, hidden somewhere or lost. But when we store it, and you don't use it, what happens to it? You lose it. You lose it. You forget it. So one of the best ways to remember the Quran or the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is that when you take it, you apply it. You take it, you practice it. Otherwise, after some times, and by the way, if you've not actually experienced it, wait a little bit and you will see it. You read a Hadith, some years pass, you come back later, you say, it's as if I've never read this. But you did. It's just, it wasn't applied. Right? So, when he's asking here, radiyallahu anhu, he's not just asking because I'm curious to know about this. I want to know because he's going to apply, bi'idhnillah, and also benefit the people around him. So what are the best of deeds? He says, al-imanu billah wal-jihadu fi sabilih. Iman and jihad. These are the best of deeds. And interestingly, right, if you translate iman simply and only as belief, you notice a sort of a contradiction, because he's asking what are the best of actions. He's telling him belief. Belief is not an action, right? So that tells you that iman is an action. Sahih? Yeah, it's right here in the hadith, right? He asked him, what is the best of action? He told him iman. What does it mean? Iman is an action, right? Yeah. Iman is an action. So iman is not only what I believe. And one of the shortcomings of translation is that the believers, we believe iman. No, this is just to convey the meaning. But iman, if you want to actually define it and understand it, here the Prophet ﷺ, we'll see maybe other hadith that will follow, is telling you that iman is action. So iman involves the action of the heart. And not only that you believe it, but also you love Allah. You hope from Allah. You fear Allah. You rely upon Allah. That's an act of the heart. The heart is moving. And also the act of the body. That's also part of iman. So the best of action is iman. Increasing your iman. In your heart, with your tongue, and with your deeds. And of iman, jihad is the highest. Right? Jihad is the highest. It says, قُلْتُ أَيُّ الرِّقَابِ أَفْضَلِ. What are the best, like if it's going to be translated literally, what are the best of necks? What is meant by neck here? Slaves. Okay, what is meant by slaves here? Tahrir, right? Freeing. And if we are freeing slaves, what are the best slaves to free? Because it's a virtuous act to free a slave, to buy and free slaves. قال أنفسها عند أهلها وأكثرها ثمنا. He says the most precious to its people and the most expensive. Yani if a person owns slaves and he wants or she wants to free those slaves, among those slaves, which one should I free? Or I'd be rewarded most if I free this person. It says the one that you like the most is most precious to you and the most expensive. That. Right? Because then you're giving the thing that you, what? Love and you need the most. That's sacrifice. Yeah? As Allah Azza wa Jalla says, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. You're not going to achieve bir until you spend from what you love. Because you can spend things that you don't care about. This got old, right? It's going to go for sadaqah. Okay, fine, at least, it's going for sadaqah. There's a difference between this and saying, I love this thing. I love this bag. I love this pen. I love this whatever, jacket. That's going for sadaqah. While I still love it and while it's still expensive. So here it is. What are the best of slaves to free? He says, the most precious and the most expensive. قال فإن لم أفعل. He says, if I did not do that, meaning I cannot. If I cannot do that. Now see how he's, moving from one to the other. And that's the benefit of also not only being, receiving the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ as the person giving the answer, but the wisdom of the questioner. And how did he extract this from the Prophet ﷺ, right? So there's a wisdom from the questioner, and there's a wisdom from the one giving the answer. قال فإن لم أفعل. If I cannot, قال تعين صانعا أو تصنع لأخرق. He says you will help an able person who can, but he needs help, right? Like he knows what he's doing, but he needs help. صانع, right? Like a professional. He knows what he's doing, but he needs somebody to assist him. أو تصنع لأخرق. Or you help someone who's unable, right? يعني take any example. Someone does not know how to fix their sink. Or somebody knows how to fix their sink. This is a sani', knows how to fix. But he needs you to hold something here and hold something there while he's fixing it. So this is tu'inu. You're assisting a person who knows what he's doing. He just needs you to assist. The other person, like me, does not know how to fix his sink. So he needs you to come and do it for him. Right? أو تصنعوا لأخرق. قلت يا رسول الله أرأيت إن ضعفت عن بعض العمل. He says, O Prophet of Allah, what if I'm unable, weak to perform some deeds? Right? If I'm weak to perform, so you're strong at one point, or you have the mood at one point, you have the appetite, right? You have this inclination to do, but sometimes, what happens? You're not that strong in your iman, you're not that strong physically, you don't feel like it. So he says, what if this happens to me? Because you're going to go up and you're going to go down. Again, think about that. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla even gave you a path when you're weak. When I'm strong, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do that. Now when I'm weakest, what is it? What is it that at least I can hold on to? قَالَ تَكُفُّ شَرَّكَ عَنِ النَّاسِ فَإِنَّهَا صَدَقَةٌ مِنْكَ عَلَى نَفْسِكَ. He says, you stop your evil from reaching people. Because this is a sadaqah that you do for yourself. This is like at least that you do this. تَكُفُّ شَرَّكَ. Right? You know how sometimes you're not in the mood and you're angry and you're waiting to shout at someone or fight with them or pick a fight. You know how it is sometimes? Okay? And you're not in the mood to do anything good. This is it. So the Prophet ﷺ say, okay, if you reach that stage, at least hold your tongue. At least don't punch that person. Don't say something bad to them. You don't have to do anything positive that hour or that day, other than the obligations. But you don't have to do anything positive extra if it's not within you. But what you should do is, don't create evil. Don't create corruption. With the intention, I am doing this for Allah Azza wa Jal. I'm going to stay away from evil. I can't help, but at least I'm not going to make it worse. Right? I'm not going to make it worse. And if you do it with that intention, the Prophet ﷺ called it what? Sadaqah. Because we'll see the sadaqah is not only just money. Here's an interesting type of sadaqah. I'm staying away from haram, staying away from hurting others. Because of Allah, that's sadaqah. So you're still doing something good. Subhanallah, right? Even though you don't have the energy to do anything. He says, at least be quiet. At least, other than the obligation or what you have to, don't leave your home. Right? Unless leaving home will help you. otherwise. But if you're going to get out and be in trouble, he says, okay, hold and keep your evil contained and don't harm other people. And then if you do that, then this is a sadaqah. So this is another path. I can be very strong or then weak to the weakest. But even when I'm weakest, there is still a path for me to obey Allah Azza wa Jal. Now, the next hadith from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and there are different versions of it, so we'll connect, inshallah, all of them. He says, يُصْبِحُ عَلَى كُلِّ سُلَامَ مِنْ أَحَدِكُمْ صَدَقَةً. He says, يُصْبِحُ, in the morning, every joint, this is the sulama, every joint that you have, there is a sadaqah for it upon you. Right? يُصْبِحُ, in the sabah, in the morning. عَلَى كُلِّ سُلَامَ, for every joint that you have, a sadaqah that you have to give. Right? And in the other hadith, it says that it is 360. I just want to see here. نعم. أنه خلق كل إنسان من بني آدم على 60 و300 مفصل. So every child of Adam has been created with 360 joints. So this is how many of them the Prophet ﷺ says. Each one of them needs a sadaqah every single day. Why does it need a sadaqah? Because it's a ni'mah. Right? You can't do this without the joints. You can't move. You can't earn a living. You can't turn without the joints. Don't function without joints. So every joint, small joint, needs a sadaqah, like a thank you, a price for it. Allah gave it to you, now you have to thank Allah for it. And 360 we're talking about, right? So, is it money? Yeah, money can work. But the Prophet ﷺ says what? فَكُلُّ تَسْبِيحَةٍ صَدَقَةٍ. Every subhanallah is a sadaqah. وَكُلُّ تَحْمِيدَةٍ صَدَقَةٍ. And every alhamdulillah is a sadaqah. وَكُلُّ تَهْلِيلَةٍ صَدَقَةٍ. And every tahlila is what? La ilaha illallah. Every la ilaha illallah is a sadaqah. وَكُلُّ تَكْبِيرَةٍ صَدَقَةٍ. And every saying of Allahu Akbar is sadaqah. وَأَمْرٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ صَدَقَةٍ. Commanding virtue is sadaqah. وَنَهْيٌ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ صَدَقَةٍ. And you're forbidding evil, speaking out against evil, that is sadaqah. Right? Let's go to another hadith. تَعْدِلُ بَيْنَ الْإِثْنَيْنِ صَدَقَةٍ. If you are judging between people and you are just about that judgment, that is sadaqah. وتعين الرجل في دابته فتحمله عليها أو ترفع عليها متاعه صدقة. Or you're helping a person mount his animal, or you are carrying his stuff for him and handing that to him when he's on his animal, that is a sadaqah. وَالْكَلِمَةِ الطَّيِّبَ صَدَقَةً. And the sweet word, a soft, sweet, kind word is a sadaqah. وَبِكُلِّ خَطْوَةٍ تَمْشِيهَا إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ صَدَقَةً. And every step that you will take to the salah is a sadaqah. وَتُمِيطُ الْأَذَى عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ صَدَقَةً. And you remove harm from the road, from the path, people's path. That is also sadaqah. It says in another hadith, وَاسْتَغْفَرَ اللَّهِ. If he says استغفر الله وَعَزَلَ حَجَرًا عَنْ طَرِيقِ النَّاسِ أو شَوْكَةً أو عَظْمًا عَنْ طَرِيقِ النَّاسِ. He removes a stone from people's path, or a thorn, or a bone. And the rest is the same. Inshallah, we'll come back to this version. So you see how many he named? Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So you have the dhikr with your tongue. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, astaghfirullah. He named these. And also any sweet and kind word that you will say. What else did he name? In terms of anything. What else did he name that you remember? تَعْدِلُ بَيْنَ اثْنَيْنِ. Right? So you're judging between people and you're just in that judgment. Resolving their disagreement. Reconciling them. That is sadaqah. What else did he mention? See, this is your test now. Were you listening? Removing any harm from the path of people's path. Any. Right? So you're walking. Subhanallah, see, you're walking, you find garbage. You pick that garbage. It doesn't matter where. Right? Masjid, outside the masjid, public road, it doesn't matter. You're walking, you know this is going to hurt people, harm people. They could slip on it. Right? Harm themselves. I'm removing this. I'm throwing this in the bin. That's a sadaqah. Right? And by the way, throwing it is what? If this is sadaqah, throwing it is what? Sayyah, right? And anything that results from it. You know how, that's what we're saying. A small thing can become very, very big. You throw it, he says, so what? Throw that. Somebody steps on it, slips, breaks his hand. Whose fault is that? My fault when I threw it. Yani I have that sin. He gets into an accident. He dies. My sin. Yeah, my sin. So you know how something very small can graduate into something that is very big? That's an example of it. Okay. What else did he mention here, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? So, al-amr bil ma'roof wa nahi anil munkar. If you see something good, but it's not being done, you tell people to do it. See something bad, but it's being done and practiced, tell people to stop it. That's the sadaqah. So sadaqah is not always money, but this is sadaqah too. And what else? Na'am, right? So even smiling in the face of your brother, that is also a sadaqah. And a person, you're helping them get into their vehicle, out of their vehicle, giving them the right of way. And you go first. Sadaqah. Saying salamu alaykum to them, that is sadaqah. Every step you take to the masjid, that is sadaqah, right? And what else? I know that I would know. Okay. I'm coming to it, inshallah. I'm coming to it. And then this one also, this in the hadith, وَفِي بُضْعِ أَحَدِكُمْ صَدَقَةً. In someone fulfilling their desire with their spouse, sadaqah. Yeah? So they said, Ya Rasulullah, ayati ahaduna shahwatahu wa yakunu lahu fiha ajr. And if someone fulfills his desire and he's rewarded for it. Because you think about it, right? Ibadah typically what is what? Something that there's resistance from the self to do. You have to force it. But this is something that you're naturally inclined to do. So you say, Ya Rasulullah, we're doing something for ourselves that we desire, and yet that is sadaqah. So what does he say, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? أَرَأَيْتُمْ لَوْ وَضَعَهَا فِي حَرَامٍ أَكَانَ عَلَيْهِ فِيهَا وِزْرٌ. Do you think or do you suppose, if he did that in a haram way, would that be a sin? فَكَذَلِكَ إِذَا وَضَعَهَا فِي الْحَلَالِ كَانَ لَهُ أَجْرٌ. And so it is that if he does it the way that Allah loves, in the halal, he'll be rewarded for it. So because he did that to avoid the haram. Okay? It's not just out of habit. He did that to avoid the haram. So he said, I want to do the halal. And the Prophet ﷺ, he used that analogy. If he did it for haram, he'll be, it's a sin for him. Now because he's doing it for the halal, that is a sadaqah for him. Meaning he enjoys whatever he enjoys, and also Allah rewards him for it. Every time he does it. Same thing with food. Same thing with food. Right? Talked about that more previously. That you like this thing, and Allah is on your mind when you're eating it, because you want to eat halal, you don't want to eat the haram, and the consequences of it, you want to do it for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. You're enjoying it, and there is sadaqah for you. Right? So you see how many paths of good Allah Azza wa Jal has given us. And then he says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَيُجْزِئُ مِنْ ذَلِكَ رَكْعَتَانِ يَرْكَعُهُمَا مِنَ الضُّحَى. And what would cover all of this, all of what? Would cover all of the 360 sadaqahs that you have to pay every day, is 2 rak'ahs that you will pray at the time of duha. Salatul duha. So if you pray it every day, you paid the sadaqah for your body that day. Because this is also the virtue of salah. Because salah is what? Sayings and actions and your heart as well. So all of you are involved in this ibadah. All of you. It's not just the tongue, it's not just the body. All of you are involved in this ibadah. So it counts as the 360 sadaqah that you will do for that day. And when is the time for Salatul Duha? Yeah, between Fajr and Dhuhr. So you will wait until the sun rises. And after it rises, you wait for about 10-15 minutes or so, that the time of Duha starts. You go all the way to time of Dhuhr, about 10 minutes before the time of Dhuhr comes in, and that's the time for Duha, inshallah. Right? So all this time is the time for duha. الزوال, I think, is zawal qasir. Zawal qasir, inshallah. So it's about 10 minutes, inshallah. No. Okay. So we'll take one more hadith, inshallah, and then we will open it up for questions, inshallah. So here, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, عُرِضَتْ عَلَيَّ أَعْمَالُ أُمَّتِي حَسَنُهَا وَسَيِّئُهَا. He says, I have seen, or the actions of my ummah were presented to me, the good and the bad. The actions of my ummah, the good deeds and the bad deeds were presented to me. فَوَجَدْتُ فِي مَحَاسِنِ أَعْمَالِهَا الْأَذَى يُمَاطُ عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ. He says, I found among its good deeds, the good deeds that they can do and Allah rewards for, الْأَذَى يُمَاطُ عَنِ الطَّرِيقِ. Al-adha, harm, being removed from people's path. This is among the hasanat that I found. وَوَجَدْتُ فِي مَسَاوِئِ أَعْمَالِهَا النُّخَاعَةِ تكون في المسجد لا تدفن. And I found among its sins the phlegm, think of a spit, that you will find that be in the masjid and it's not buried, right? In a sense not removed. So notice here the Prophet ﷺ is pointing to something great or small? Small. It's not big. But because you will typically, as a human, we as humans typically will overlook this. The great hasanat are the salah and the jihad and this, but then we won't pay attention to this. And the sins are the big sins, but you don't pay attention to this. The problem is that, as we said, the good, the small good, collects and collects and collects until it becomes something big. And also the bad, the small sin, collects and collects until it becomes something bad. Right? Not only in number, but also in habit. And how this person is behaving with others. So you start small, and you keep growing and growing and growing until the character of that person reflects that original good deed or that original bad deed that he did, but didn't notice. So here sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is saying, now you're outside, not in the masjid, you're outside. Which means that this is more so in the masjid. But now you're outside. One of the good deeds that you have is removing harm from people's way. Whatever it is, a branch, glass, something blocking their way. You know that another person, doesn't even need to be a person, an animal, is going to be injured and harmed because of it. You remove it. And you remove it not because others will see it. You remove it not because, I want them to say I'm civilized. Right? Because they have, always the bad ideas about Muslims. I want them to see I'm a civilized Muslim. It's not because of that. Because what if it's, my argument always, what if there's no one around? They say, look around. No non-Muslims, okay, keep going. Right? No one sees me. So I'm not going to get credit for it. Why should I do it anyway? No one is seeing this. This is sadaqah. This is for Allah Azza wa Jal. Right? Even if that person, you're doing this in front of their home, and they hate you and they hate Islam. It's not for them. It's for Allah Azza wa Jal. This is your sadaqah. So you remove it for Allah. And this is how inshallah, we train ourselves that whenever we move for Allah Azza wa Jal. Right? And we do for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal, not for the sake of anything or anyone else. And then this tells you, like if you visit some Muslim countries and you find that people don't care about public image and what they're doing and what they're throwing, that all of these are sins. They're committing sins. We ask Allah to forgive them if they do not know. But that all of these are sins. So when you look at it and say, how is this Islam? It is true. It is not Islam. These are sins being committed every day or every hour. Allah does not love it. And His Prophet ﷺ counted that as a sin. And then he says, I found among the sins of my ummah, right, the phlegm be in the masjid. Why did he mention the phlegm? Because what was the masjid at the time of the Prophet ﷺ? They weren't bridged to have carpets. What was it? Pebbles and sand. So typical, right? You could be going around and you can just spit, right? So he says, this is haram in the masjid. Haram in the masjid. If a person is going to do it with and with a masjid like that, the thing that you at least can do, if you do that, better not do it. But if you're going to do that, what do? Bury it, cover it. Right? So if you leave it like that, that's insulting which house? The house of Allah Azza wa Jal. It's supposed to be clean. So similarly, we're not going to spit in the masjid, right? It's a different furnishing. But we do actually may throw stuff. Or if we don't do it, we allow our kids to do it. Now, if you're going to bring your, mashallah, child to the masjid, pick up after them. Right? Because you don't want to make the responsibility of someone else to take care of the masjid. No. I'm responsible for it. This is my house. Sahih? This is my house. This is your house. It's not somebody else's house. It's like, janitor, whatever it is. Janitor will be doing it, right? They're going to be folding these things. They're going to be dusting that. They're going to be cleaning that. That's not. It's your job, right? It's your job. So thinking about it in terms of good deeds and bad deeds is effective, right? Brother, you're sinning. That's it. Sister, you're sinning, right? We're not going to say more than that, but you're sinning if you do this. So take care of it, so that instead of leaving with a sin, you leave with a sadaqah on yourself, and you had made the house of Allah Azza wa Jal pleasant for people who are going to come after and be praying. Now they're going to come and say, look at this, I don't want to be here. I don't like this place, right? So taking care of our masjid, but also not only the masjid, any place outside. Okay? Taking care of that, Allah Azza wa Jal loves it because you are increasing good and diminishing inshallah evil. So I don't want to take more than that inshallah, because I don't want to cover the whole time between Maghrib and Isha. I'll give time for questions, and if we're done, you guys can just socialize and talk. Na'am? Isha is, so we have, let's see if we have questions or answers, because, Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Na'am. You don't have to. No, you don't have to. Now. No, if you love it, right? You typically love things that are close to you, and usually either you're connected to them in one way or another. Sometimes because you're using them, and sometimes that's why you love them, or sometimes because they have some value to you, monetary value, even if you're not really using it at that moment, but it has some monetary value. But if you can, let's say, donate this person and someone benefits from it, and you believe that this thing, not saying that it should harm you, inshallah, right? It shouldn't harm you. But that if you can give this, and that this sacrifice can come from your heart for Allah Azza wa Jal, what this means is that you are willing to sacrifice for Allah. This is what it means. You're willing to sacrifice for Allah. So let's consider you have two jackets. You bought a new one, and you have an old one. Both of them can be used. I'm not saying that you have to do this. I'm not saying that. Both of them can be used. Both of them are still functional. And you like this, beautiful one. But then you say, okay, you see someone who needs a jacket. Now, you can give him the old one. Nothing wrong with that, inshallah. Still sadaqah. But then you can also say to yourself, they also would like something new. So if they would enjoy it as I'm enjoying it right now, so let me make them happy. So you give them what you love. So because you gave something that you love, that has more reward to it than the thing that you love less. That's it, inshallah. But if there's something that is really going to harm you and leave you, mashallah, in dur, no, don't do it. Because Allah Azza wa Jalla does not ask you to harm yourself for the sake of others. Right? But that's the idea, inshallah. نعم تفضل.
About this hadith of Abu Dhar, jihad fi sabilillah.
نعم.
What exactly that jihad is referring to?
نعم inshallah. So jihad fi sabilillah, the best of jihad for the fi sabilillah, and jazakallah khair, it's a good point because it allows us to comment on a couple of points. So this jihad for the sabilillah azza wa jal is comprehensive of striving and struggling for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. The highest of that is when you do jihad with your own self, bodily, physical jihad, right? But that jihad, of course, needs to be legitimate jihad, not just be called jihad and then people wage it, etc., etc. But in fact, Allah hates it. But this is the physical jihad, like with the Prophet ﷺ in their battles, because this is a person who is risking everything that they have. Right? Risking their life, risking their money, risking everything, the most precious thing that they have. But that's not the only type of jihad. So another type of jihad could be also al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. Right? Commanding good and forbidding evil, that is also jihad. Why is it jihad? Because you're fighting, in a sense figuratively, you're striving, you're struggling, there's resistance. You have to force yourself to do it, and you have to bear the consequence and sometimes the harm of people when they reject whatever you want to say. Huh? So whatever your advice you're going to give, you may be ridiculed, you may be hurt. This is, in a sense, is jihad. So that's another type of jihad. Another type of jihad, which is what comes to mind also, and I wanted to mention or highlight, talabul ilm, seeking knowledge. That's also another type of jihad. And during some times, it's actually the best type of jihad. In a sense, because if people do not know about their Islam, are very ignorant about it, learning what Islam is and teaching it becomes the best type of jihad. Because everything else is built on understanding Islam. When you correct your understanding, you can correct your practice, and then you can become a better Muslim. But without it, you don't know what Allah loves. You can just think or invent things. So learning Islam and then teaching Islam is of the best types of jihad. So jihad has different levels, different categories. The best of jihad is the physical jihad, but that's not the only type of jihad, right? Sometimes seeking knowledge, going after it and learning and teaching it could be like that physical jihad or even better, right? Depending on the benefit. Clear? Yeah. No. So is talabul ilm, is it for Islam or could be something else? You typically, right, when it says talabul ilm or in the Quran and Hadith, they speak about ilm, it's meant shari, religious and Islamic one. But it does not mean that when you're studying something else and when you have the proper intention, that could not also count as a form of jihad for you. It's not going to be as close or as good as or as beneficial as the religious one in general. But you could be more effective, right, in that field than maybe an average person who's doing that religious learning. So if you're really distinguished in that field and you have the intention of pleasing Allah and you benefit a lot of people and you keep your intention that, not the dunya and not fame, you keep it that could be also a form of jihad for Allah Azza wa Jalla. Jihad. No.
Does that intention have to be made to say, I'm going to do everything today, try to do good, and try to make a lot of something? You always have to say that, or
no.
You just go around and do it, without thinking, make sense?
No. So the question is, do I always have to have that intention in mind? Because sometimes you go around, as the brother said, you go around and without thinking about it, you would just do things as you see them. Pick this up and do that here and do that there. Do you always have to have an intention? It's probably, Wallahu alam, right? We can say first, it's always better with intention. It's always better with intention because you know what you're doing and there is a purpose behind it and you're aware of it, right? So it's always for Allah Azza wa Jalla. When the intention is lost, the act becomes habitual. You just do it out of habit, right? For instance, I don't have an example, for instance. You're cleaning the masjid, you thought, okay, this is a habit. I'm doing this just out of a habit. I just saw it and picked it up, and picked it up. Now, there may be some intention behind it still, and this is the house of Allah Azza wa Jal, but it's not, at the surface right there. I'm not really thinking about it in that moment, but there is still some intention behind it. Then, bi'idhnillah, we hope that Allah Azza wa Jal will reward for it. Other times it's just basic habit. Basic habit. You're doing it, and you're not even thinking about it. It's always better to bring that intention in. Because without that intention, you don't know. Am I doing it for Allah? Am I doing it for someone else? It's expected of me. Allah.
Can you wake up in the morning and say, hey, I'm going to do this?
Yes, inshallah.
Every time to do everything you're doing, just say that, okay, I'm going to do this, or say for a while. Repeat, saying it to yourself, or make an intention every time.
You can do that, and that could be.
Say, hey, whatever I do today is for tomorrow. My family, my soul. Does that count? And everything you do, does that count? Or just like you're doing something?
Naam. So the question is that can I wake up in the morning and just decide, inshallah, today everything that I'm doing is going to be sadaqah? I think it's definitely, alhamdulillah, a good thing to do, because you're reminding yourself every morning that you want to be doing something for Allah. And as long as you remember that, as long as you're motivated by that, then bi'idhnillah, that is sadaqah. But when you forget about it, because sometimes you go to work because you're going to work, sometimes you play sports because you just want to play sports. Allah is not in the equation, right? So if Allah is, then yeah, you get rewarded for it. If Allah is not, then, Allahu A'lam. Yeah, so better always, inshallah, to always keep Allah Azza wa Jal in mind. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And it takes what? Practice, right? It takes a lot of practice. But inshallah, slowly, you'll be able to graduate into a level where, before you want to do something, you're asking yourself, why this? Why this? Why this? And then injecting Allah Azza wa Jal in all the things that you want to do. نعم. تفضل.
Small comment about the ayah that you mentioned in the beginning.
نعم.
It's I think the context is in Hajj. الحج أشهر معلومات فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج وما تفعلوا بالخير يعلمه الله. Subhanallah. So it's talking about something that nobody can see except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're preventing. You avoid getting into argument in Hajj.
نعم.
And that's the only one that he knows is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because everybody's kind of like, well, somebody bothered him and didn't respond.
صحيح. جزاك الله خير. صحيح. So because Allah Azza wa Jalla is the only one who will know these things, you will avoid it because of Allah. Not for the sake of that person. صحيح. جزاك الله خير إن شاء الله. Yes.
Regarding the same question that when we as Muslims we make our efforts to clean the mosque, clean the house, make right shoes for example, when the rain goes start from the right, and we must be for example, start from the right. We have to then all of the life every time make an intention, or without the race, our kids that whenever we do, inshallah that will be accepted.
Inshallah, as I said to the brother, so your question is that should we have that intention, like, because you're raising our kids, to do this and this and this, that, according to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So do we have to have that intention every time? Or is it enough that we've raised our kids this way, that they're doing it, and since they're doing it, that is also sadaqah, that they're doing sadaqah, right?
Yeah, and the kids, they have to take intention every time. We have to teach them also that every time you do it, make an intention.
Khair, inshallah. I don't want it to be difficult, right? I don't want it to be difficult. At the same time, right, there's a difference between someone who's doing this for Allah Azza wa Jal and is aware that he's doing it for Allah, and someone who has forgotten why he's doing this. So that reward really is different. So even if we say that person is doing it and the motivation for it is Allah Azza wa Jal, right? But he started to forget. So the intention is weak. Maybe it's still there, but the intention is weak. Versus someone who remembers or tried to remember or just was reminded recently of why this is important, because Allah loves it and His Prophet. So now he's doing it, again, motivated by Allah Azza wa Jal. There's a difference between the intention and the intensity and the dedication. Right? There's a difference, right? So because there's a difference, this is what you should, inshallah, aim for. Which is that to have that intention, that whenever I want, at least you begin with the ibadat. And I'm standing in salah. Salah is one of the areas where we forget about our intention in the salah. Why am I praying? Salah becomes a habit, right? Sah? I'm just used to coming to Isha. I'm used to coming to Fajr. No, you have to stand up and say to yourself, why am I standing here? What am I doing? What is this supposed to do? What am I learning from it? The more that you remember this, the greater your reward for salah is. And typically, bi'idhnillah, if you just pay a little bit of attention in the salah, you'll get something out of it. So I'm not saying that there is no reward at all, but you have to, bi'idhnillah, after you teach them at an age where they'll be able to understand what that intention is, right? To teach them that, think of Allah Azza wa Jal whenever you want to do something. And try to bring Allah Azza wa Jal in everything that you're doing. Then everything they're doing has meaning. And continues to have meaning as long as they remember Allah. Otherwise, they'll be doing it, again, as of habit. I've been taught to begin with the right. I've been taught to exit with the left. I've been taught to say these things. But why am I doing it? Do I want Allah's pleasure, or my parents told me to do it, so I'm doing it? So when you bring Allah Azza wa Jal in it, and there's that direct connection, it makes a difference, inshallah. Is it difficult? I mean, is it posing difficulty for people? Yeah, inshallah. But it's not super, it doesn't have to be like descent on you like, a block of, I don't know, of whatever. Take it easy, inshallah. Take it easy. Right? It's not, you're not going to move from, I'm not going to move from almost nothing to everything. That's really hard. But what you can do is try to now, inshallah, develop some intention. So you ask yourself why. Right? So my salah, I can do that with my salah. Or when I'm reading the Quran. So you do it in your ibadah. Sometimes you'll remember when I'm eating, is this for Allah? Let me try to make it for Allah Azza wa Jal. So you'll have that intention. I'm studying right now. Is this for Allah? Let me try to make it for Allah. So you have that intention. And subhanAllah, maybe Allah Azza wa Jal will enable you to continue on that path. So, we're talking about what? The highest levels, mashallah.
Why it's difficult to put the intention?
Because some of us are thinking, like everything I have to do must have an intention for it. And it doesn't have to, if this is a mubah, right?
Remember you'll get the ajr.
Na'am.
But if you don't remember, Allah will forgive you. But the more you put intention,
the more is better, right? And
where is the difficulty? There is no difficulty, just forget and remember.
Na'am, if you forget, that's what I want to say. If it is something that is mubah, allowed, you don't have to have an intention. Eating and drinking and studying and stuff, but we're directing ourselves, inshallah, to what is even better, to the higher levels. So at least you begin with what? Your ibadah. Begin with your ibadah and have the intention there that it is for Allah, and keep doing that. Then afterwards, inshallah, the other acts of obedience that you have that are voluntary, that inshallah can build on the obligations. And then after, inshallah, maybe this is why it's easier. So we begin with the obligations, then we move to the voluntary, then after the voluntary, the mubah. Okay, so that's the plan. This is the plan now. If you focus on the obligation, the mubah is for later. That's stage 3. So stage 2 will be the voluntary. Stage 3 is the allowed, mubah, inshallah. So it's not difficult, inshallah.
I think probably the question is about if you get used to something, it's become like second nature.
No.
To walk and help others.
No.
So sometimes the intention is just you do it before you think about it.
Sahih. And Allahu Alam, we're not saying that there is no reward in it, but there's some of the Salaf, right, who would say, they will ask him to do something. He'd pause a little bit, then walks. He says, why? He says, I didn't have an intention. Like this had to be for Allah Azza wa Jal. I didn't have an intention yet. Or would not speak. I didn't have an intention. Then he speaks when he has that intention. And so there's a difference between doing it as you said, just second nature, because I've developed this habit, and actually being focused on why I'm doing it. Because when you know the why, you'll know the how, inshallah, better. Fadali sister. Allahu A'lam, it depends on who's saying it. So if a person is saying it, inshallah, the intention, right? Anam, it's a habit sometimes, right? You say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim and you eat. Intention is here and here, mind and heart, more than what you say. Because what you say is like what you do can become a habit. Now, it's beautiful that you say it, because though you may not have an intention, you're saying Bismillah, just the movement of the tongue reminds the heart and the body, the mind and the heart. It reminds it that what? You must have an intention. You're doing something for Allah Azza wa Jal, right? So when that happens, inshallah, you'll have that intention. But the intention is in the heart. Right? Okay? Difficult. I would say the obligation first. And then you do the voluntary, and then do the mubah. Astaghfirullah. Naam, sahih. So the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's in a hadith that the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will plant you trees in Jannah. So yes, you're doing that as well. So whatever good deed that you do, and it could have multiple rewards to it. So it can forgive sins, increase rewards, and also something with Allah Azza wa Jal, right? Yeah. Are we done? طيب. جزاكم الله خيرا. And we'll meet inshallah next week after Maghrib بإذن الله. جزاكم الله خيرا. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Okay, so we had a question on, let me answer this. Should we pray after Jum'ah prayer? Okay. Questions. How many rak'ahs sunnahs, nafil prayer, should we pray after Jum'ah prayer? Okay, so after Jum'ah, I didn't notice these. So after Jum'ah, inshallah, how many rak'ahs do we pray after Jum'ah, guys? 2 or 4, right? 2 or 4. So after Jum'ah, the sunnah is you pray 2 or 4, inshallah. So what is mubah? Still don't understand it, inshallah. So what is mubah? What is allowed? Mubah is what is allowed to do. It's not an obligation and it's not haram. So it stands there in the middle. Like eating. Eating is mubah. Right? Clothing yourself, right? Wearing something, that is mubah. Drinking water, mubah. Milk is mubah. So these things are mubah. So this mubah, or what is allowed, if it has an intention, a good intention behind it, it will be ibadah. And if it doesn't, then there's nothing wrong with that, right? You're not going to be penalized for it. But we're just talking about that if you have a better intention, then everything that you do, bi'idhnillah, can be for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That's it, inshallah. Na'am? 2 or 4. You have the option. 2 or 4. Yeah, and if you have energy, pray 4. If not, you're in a hurry, pray 2, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.